Alec, we were critical of the council last year for their response to the poor weather. What do you think how they've done this year?
I certainly think that they've done their best with the resources that they've had. The weather this last week and a half has been really severe, from Ballingery through Kelty, Cowdenbeath, Lochgelly, right down to Dalgety Bay, coming up into Dunfermline, right across the West 5 villages. It has been really bad. People have found themselves marooned in their houses and in their streets for days on end. The council have tried to respond to that, I think, and have done as best as they can. But I do think we need more resources. The fact is that this is not now a one-off. Last year the weather was horrendous, and people were saying, but it's a one-off, what can you actually expect? Now we've seen this is November, December time, and we're getting this severe weather. This could go right through, to February, March time. At the end of the day, I don't think we actually have enough resources in place. The motorway, for example, Fife Council put a press release out on Wednesday last week saying that roads were actually passable. But at that point I went out and went onto the motorway. The motorway was treacherous. The side roads were impossible. Trying to actually park, you could see the situation here just now, where this road, we've managed to get the main road cleared leading into Abbey View, but the side streets are in a state. And what we actually need is we need big lorries, we need shovels to come in here and actually lift the snow. If you go into the side streets, they are still completely clogged up and blocked up. And so we need to actually do something about that. So, well, I would say that the council's done their best. Council workers have worked really hard over this period. I think we now need to ask ourselves, do we need to put more resources in to preparing for winter and dealing with winter when it comes? Now, the council itself, the council budgets cannot, I don't think, afford to pay for all that. And so we need to go back again to the Scottish Government and say, if we're going to have this kind of horrendous weather, would it not be cheaper to invest in more resources and more staff to be able to tackle with it, form new partnerships with the private sector, new partnerships with communities to address this, because otherwise it is costing the local economy millions upon millions, if not billions of pounds, and at the same time families throughout this part of Fife are certainly sitting worried because their wages are being cut as a result of not being able to get to their work. Something like 80% of companies nowadays do not pay workers when they're trapped in their communities because of the bad weather. So if you're a public sector worker, you do tend to get your pay. If you're working for a small company, you've got a family, you've not been able to get out to your work for 3 days, you're not going to get paid. We're coming up to Christmas time, families are really worried. So this is a really serious issue that needs to be addressed in terms of how we cope with the severity of the winters that we're now getting.
So what do you think needs to be done differently, Alex, to ensure that you address and you're able to deal with the problem as they arise?
Well, I think we need to learn the lessons for this time round. Have we got enough gritters? Have we got enough machinery to be able to go into these places and actually try and do something? A new partnership with communities. What I have seen over the last week has been tremendous in terms of the amount of people that have actually been out there clearing their neighbours' paths, going to the shops for older people. There's a lot of that happening, but let's build on that and do more of it. Fife Council have put release after release out congratulating their own staff, and rightly so. But let's not forget, it's not just the paid staff of Fife Council that have been out there actually trying to ensure that our elderly are safe, that our streets are trying to be a bit cleared. It's the whole community, so let's praise the whole community, but let's then build a partnership. Surely businesses in terms of shops should be responsible for clearing their parts, but we definitely need to invest in more capital. We need heavy plant and machinery to come in and actually clear these side streets away, because otherwise, even when people get out, they can't park their cars. They actually can't park any place. So, in conclusion, I would say well done to all the workers that have been working over this last week. But We need more resources. Those resources are not going to come from the local authorities. We need to now talk to the Scottish Government and say, if this is the severity of the weather that we're going to continue to get, then we need to invest more in capital, more in resources to ensure that we can keep our streets clean, that we can get people to work, and when we put out press releases saying that the roads are clear, then we're not expecting people to go out in the dangerous conditions that our roads have been in over the last week. That's what needs to happen. It's not a criticism of anybody, but it's about saying, let's be real with the situation that we find ourselves in, and let's look at how we actually support people more to get to their work, to get to the shops, and actually be able to do more to keep our communities, our roads safe.
So Fife Council put a press release out 24th of November saying let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, that no school in Fife would close this winter. Over the past week the schools have been closed. Was it the right thing to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Fife Council will be very embarrassed that that they put out a press release saying let it snow, and that no school in Fife would close. You really have to wonder, is that the best use of the taxpayers' money to be issuing these kind of press releases? I think the Chairman of Education will be very embarrassed over that, but the decision this week to close, I think, almost 99% of the Kingdom's schools was absolutely correct. It was a correct decision. There is no way that our children or our teachers should be put at risk to go into schools, given the horrendous weather conditions that we've had. So in terms of the decision, the Director of Education was absolutely correct to make that decision. Look at this bus shelter here in Dunfermline. A lot of children in Fife, a lot of pupils in Fife are bused into schools. Fife has rural areas. As I've said to you, from Benarty through to the West Fife villages, down through to the Scythe, along to Dalgety Bay, our streets are absolutely clogged up with snow. People are finding it difficult to walk, people are finding it difficult to get around. So we should not put our children in danger. And what we need to do is see a substantial investment in capital to ensure that we actually have the capacity to cope with this kind of weather. It's no longer good enough to say it's a one-off, it's some kind of how freakish weather. The fact is that we had this weather lasting over a month last winter. This winter, we've only started the winter, and this is the weather we've got. We've got to be able to cope better. That needs investment. Fife Council doesn't have that kind of money to invest. We need to take this discussion to the Scottish Government, and we need to be saying that if this is the kind of weather that we're going to get, in order to protect our children, in order to allow our communities to be able to function, we need to invest in more resources to tackle this kind of weather. That's the reality, but our children are going back to school tomorrow, we're being told. It's really, I would question whether even now, trying to put children onto buses at bus shelters where they're clogged up with snow is going to be difficult. It was the right decision to make, and let's get all this snow cleared up.